even for example in the US or UK market, the market is so saturated, but there's still some of them that are standing out very like heavily and they make tons of money. Like they are very profitable. And just to give you one specific example, we also don't like to follow what the rest does, like specific, like you see, like I think you have these Kilimani area apartments in mind, where like a whole complex with 100 apartments looks the same furniture, same tables, same everything. And I think this is just for sure like not the right way to go. But just as one example, there's one guy, we also found him just by making research on Airbnb. He's also based in Kilimani, also based in one of these complexes, but he stands out so much because he looks very, very unique. He brought all his furniture has like very unique pieces. His apartment has very unique colors, so it's like it stands out, and the competition cannot compete with him. He can charge double the rates for the same location, for the same amenities, for the same size of the apartment, but he can charge double the rate because he's different. He's unique. He's has more bookings. He's basically he stands out in this way. Like, and there are many many other ways. It's also the question beforehand would be like, for example, if you also run your own business, it's like you also need to understand like who are you targeting, who's your ideal customer, for example. The same, I would say, the same principle applies here in this case as well. Do you attract business travelers? What are you offering them, kind of property style, amenity style, location? Like, where is it located? If you attract maybe domestic travelers, if you are attracting families, if you're attracting large groups that are coming to travel to Nairobi or to Kenya in general. Also, Nairobi, like Kenya is so big, for example, like we, just as another example to give you some ideas, like it doesn't also need to be specifically directly located in Nairobi, because there are some apartments, like also we with Wayne went a couple of times, just an hour and a half outside of Nairobi itself, to Kajiado, for example, if you heard of it, and just to stay in a unique location, in a more quiet and peaceful location. For example, they had also a beautiful designed like container home, for example, there, and they also attract like 80% local tourists, for example. So there's like different ways to stand out. First off, as you saw now, maybe like it's good to look at the competition, what they do, and oftentimes in Nairobi, for example, you can see what you shouldn't do, like what it shouldn't look like, and then understand like, okay, which ones are actually performing well, which ones are making money and getting bookings, to then determine, okay, this is, let's say, the kind of style you could go for, like that. This is what you need to send out and to actually attract people, if that answers your question.
It does beautifully. Thank you very much.
Yeah, welcome.
And
Got you.
maybe if I can add one or two things to that. So the thing is, there might be a lot of listings in Nairobi, but trust me when I say 90% of them don't know what they are doing. So in terms of like professionalism, it's so easy to beat your competition. Just to give you an example, right? So our last community members that came for a business trip to Nairobi asked us for recommendations of Airbnbs in Nairobi. And so we shared with them the Airbnb in Kilimani that Marvin just mentioned, the one that stand out. And so he's the other ones, they have a very low occupancy rate, but he's almost fully booked. So at that for the first night he was booked. However, for the second and third night, he was available. So they decided to book an apartment, an Airbnb in the same complex. So they don't have to move neighborhoods, just move to the third floor. And so when they arrived, imagine this host was a super host. He had, I don't know how many listings. When they arrived, turned out that apartment which they chose is not even available anymore. He has rented it out to a long term tenant. And then he had to offer an alternative, which was horrible. And so you see, like, this is like basics. He already had a tenant for 2 months. And I've spent time in so many Airbnbs, not just here in Nairobi, but across the continent. And there is, especially with the strategies that we share, right, on how to, like, with the simple things on how to stand out and offer a unique experience. I'm just about to record a new YouTube episode, which will be available to you too, where I share how I get a lot of my inspiration from luxury hotels. and the tricks that we can steal from luxury hotels that 99% of the Airbnbs aren't doing. And these are the things that I'm sharing with my audience for free, because I also want Airbnb hosts, local ones that live on the continent, right? Understand and improve how to learn how to become better, you know? So this is the first thing that I want to say in terms of competition. When you especially with the knowledge that we share, right? And the value that we give also on our YouTube channels. These are so many things, even if they're available to many, very few will in fact then implement them eventually. Because the mistake that many make is they don't treat it like a real business, you know? And you have to treat the Airbnb business like a real business, like you would treat any business. Now, when it comes to the second thing, I think we have also, as diasporas, we have a lot of advantages and bring a lot of leverage. Just to give you an example now, since I moved to the African continent, my phone, every day I get messages from friends, family members. We want to come visit you. We are coming with a group of 3 people. Today I texted with a girl who's coming with her friend and asked me if I can recommend an Airbnb. Tomorrow my niece is coming. You will always have people who want to who look for a place to stay. I hosted so many people that are not just from my direct circle, but also friends of friends or coworkers and their friends and their families. And then they return the next year with a bigger group. You see? So we have access to people um, based on, the trust that they have with us. Airbnb is also a platform that is works based on trust. That's why you have the reviews there, right? But especially, like, sometimes I feel they are not really accurate. I just gave you a perfect example: the superhost who rented out an Airbnb, an apartment, which was not even available anymore. And so, yes, so, and also, it's about, that's why I always say it's so important to know your why. What is the story that you want to share? If you cannot succeed anymore today, even in a place that's not saturated at all. At least you cannot succeed there long term, because I was one of the first in Addis Ababa. Now we also have 1,000 listings. It's just a matter of time until more investors flock in, right? So whether you start in a place that's not saturated or that is oversaturated, you need to think of a story that you want to share, one that makes you stand out. If you are in the US, for instance, you have a big advantage. You can attract African Americans that want to reconnect with their roots, right? So if this is your why, build bridges, right? Connect local communities. That's our, one of our core principles and values is include the local community, help guests to build meaningful relationships. That's what makes me stand out. My guests, I take them in Ethiopia, I organize for them that they visit the churches, that they are included in the cultural celebrations, that now in Zanzibar they are learning how to cook traditional food. They go out with the fishermen and they learn real local life, and so you have to think of the story that you want to share and the experience that you want to offer, depending on the type of traveler you want to attract.